for somebody who'd never been in a war zone like that, for me, it was a little daunting. Like, we've got air raid sirens going off, we've got alerts on our phones going off, but it seemed like just another day in the life for you. That was a year ago. How have things changed? Is that still going on every day? You were telling me just last night Kyiv was attacked, right?
Yes, unfortunately, the situation even it goes worse. Even before, it was couple of drones, couple of the rockets, and right now Russia uses same strategy that it was used for example, against Israel when they shot in the Iron Dome. That it was when it's thousands of drones and rockets. The same ones in Ukraine that has happened. That over Ukraine is a launch more than 500 drones, at least 500, up to from 500 drones to 1,000 drones, and at least from 50 ballistic cruise missiles. And why is do this? That is very hard to protect when is using the air defense systems to hit all of these objects.
Yeah. So as of this morning, there's no water and there's no electricity in Kyiv because of the attacks, right?
Yes, actually, right now in Kyiv, actually they depart already to Mykolaiv, the 32nd team, and this morning, right now, is no water supplies and electricity in Kyiv. Yes, due to the heavy shelling attack of infrastructure.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Biggest city in the country, one that mostly seems pretty normal, aside from the constant raining down of drones and missiles and bombs. But now there's no electricity or power, or water, so it's definitely the attack is unrelenting and it keeps going on, even though we're years into this war. Leanna, I want to talk to you if we can, because what we saw in the video there was a really nice clinic. It was set up in a really nice area, had lights on, and it was clean and everything else. But give us your experience in clinics that aren't exactly like that, because there are plenty that aren't, right?
Yes, so the refugee center that was in the video is very modern, very clean, very bright, has electricity and water, but a lot of the time we are working in tiny little villages where there is really no infrastructure. Many of the buildings that we're working in don't have running water because the water supply has been destroyed, compromised. Electricity may be available, may not. If it is, a lot of times that's by generator. Sometimes the buildings are very cold. If we're like we were there in November, it was freezing cold inside as well as outside, and we're meeting with people bundled up and had emergency lighting going on to be able to see who we're meeting with and kind of huddled together in one room. Yeah, with the tiny villages, there are no services available. There's just nothing there, and the people that we meet with would have to travel a very long ways to find services, and many of them don't have transportation even. And that is, meeting with the people out there is truly a lifeline and a way to let them know that people care about them, know they're there, and are willing to show up and connect. It's amazing.
Keep that. I'll just borrow yours from you. On that note, the kind of work that you're doing over there is fascinating to me, because we think about the medical needs of these people that have been displaced refugees, but there are needs beyond medical. And if you could talk about that specifically, with the kind of help you're trying to give them. They've been through a lot of trauma, things that we can never relate to.
Yes, things that we cannot fathom. I meet with people who have watched their husband or their child be shot down in front of them. In some cases, not even been able to retrieve the body to give a proper burial because they are under occupation. I meet with people who have survived the siege at Mariupol and witness watching their neighbors be picked off because they were outside trying to get water, and just so many horrendous things there. Families who have literally fled their home under drone attack in the middle of the night, barefoot in their pajamas with little kids in tow, and gotten half a block away and turned back and seen their house destroyed. It is trauma that we can't imagine, and the other piece of that is that it's continuing, as was just shared. The drone attacks continue daily, the air raid alerts, the explosions. So when I get to meet with people, I am not a therapist, so I'm not providing therapy services, but what I get to do is educate them on trauma, because clearly they are going through trauma. And what happens with that is afterwards there are trauma effects, which is normal and natural and means that a human is functioning correctly. But those effects can include things like anxiety attacks or panic attacks, nightmares, flashbacks, things like that that are very frightening in and of themselves. And especially if some time has passed since kind of the big incident, people may not even quite realize why they're having those reactions kind of after the fact, or why they're being triggered because they hear a drone or something like that. So I get to meet with them, I get to explain that these are normal reactions, and that in itself can take a lot of the stigma out of it, a lot of the fear that somebody's losing their mind because they're having flashbacks or nightmares or not sleeping. And then also talk about ways to try to minimize the effects of the trauma. So the breathing exercises, the grounding exercises, ways to try and help people maybe get back to sleep so they're getting 3 or 4 hours instead of an hour of sleep each night. That can help them go about their day a little bit better, because these are people that, in addition to facing all of that trauma, in addition to facing the ongoing trauma that's happening every day, are also taking care of children, grandchildren, neighbors. In some cases, their loved one has been fighting, was taken prisoner. They have been released, but they come back. They've been tortured, they've been disfigured. Their family is also then caregiver for them. And yeah, the education piece, the tools that can be used, that's the part that I get to provide, and I get to watch it working in the moment. And I've been lucky enough to also get to meet with a few people a second or third time when I've been back there and hear from them that helps.
Good.
So that feeds my heart.
Good. Yeah, I love it. I'll have you give the mic to Bob real quick, and I'll ask Bob a couple questions. We did mention trauma there. You have an extensive sort of history when it comes to trauma care. Talk about how that applies while you're over there. And follow up to that is, you've been over, I think, 5 times. Why do you keep going back?
I don't know, I was sort of drawn when I first heard about what was going on in Ukraine. It hit a nerve with me, and it was just something that I felt that was important. I'd always wanted to do some mission work, but I was a little put off by some mission work that it was sort of a one and done. And Global Care Force, there's continuity what's going on. In fact, Leanna just alluded to that, getting to see some of the same patients a second and third time. I've been able to experience that as well. And that's the best way to deliver care that people need, is where there's some continuity to what you're doing in terms of the care you provide. So, but for me, it's just very important to me what's going on there right now, and that there's a significant need, both medically and on the behavioral trauma side. And in fact, I could even see the medical need decrease sooner than the behavioral trauma side, to be very honest with you. If the war ended tomorrow, I could see that need ongoing. And the other thing I'll allude to, most folks don't realize, but because some of these areas, especially in the south of the country, that were occupied for up to 7 months at a time, you know, the roads are pockmarked. A lot of the infrastructure, they're just getting back to building at least the more critical infrastructure like bridges. But the roads are still in terrible shape. I mean, we're going 20 kilometers to some of these villages, and it's taking us an hour, hour and a half to get there just because of transportation issues. Well, think about that in reverse. Those folks can't get to medications that they need. We're bringing those medications to them, hopefully in a 60-day cycle. And that's, I think that's very, very important to keep in mind. And again, that's what the Global Care Force is providing.
Over the course of those 5 visits, have you been able to see a tangible difference between the way things were before Global Care Force got involved and the way they are now?
Yes. In fact, I shared with you a picture that as a depiction of the flag. On my early visits there, you didn't see a lot of fields planted because they were mined. There were a lot of demining operations, and over time you've seen more and more of those fields become available, and they're now being planted. Because a lot of the areas that we've been spending time in are agricultural areas. These are small agricultural villages. And it's been very nice to see that life is trying to get back to normal. It's not normal by any means, but it's trying to get back to some normalcy.
Dr. Lev, let me talk to you a bit about the evolution of Global Care Force, because when this started, it was basically just medical supplies being sent over. How did that turn into bringing over medical professionals?
Yes, when the Global Care Force started working in Ukraine, it was in 2022. Since February, when I was directly connected with Dr. Gary Morsch, we understand that it was potential need and actually expertise and technology from US that was lack. And one of the example I just want to tell you that Global Care Force was provided is MedVac machines, the machines that could help to makes healing better and to protect extremities, and it's like arms, legs from amputation, both for militaries and for civilians, because we have a lot of the injuries, we have a lot of the shrapnels that was injuries, bullets, all other objects, and here in States it's like cost like about $10,000, but here you use one device for one person, but in Ukraine we use one device up to 100, 200 people, and besides all of the MedVac machines, it was other devices, and in September it was understood that we have a very big gap in healthcare providers. Why? Because in the areas that Bob was mentioned, it was even not 7 months, it was in the neighborhoods of Kyiv, but where we right now operate is the south east part. It was under occupation at least from 8 to 14 months, and right now it's ongoing even more. If it's like talking about the Kharkiv region, Kherson, Mykolaiv region, where right now we operated, and where the people was during the occupation, the healthcare providers, both as physicians, nurses, any medical practitioners, either could be killed or they could be still on the prison in Russia, under Russia territory. They could be in evacuation, and actually we understood them. They couldn't return because due to the trauma that they saw, and or a lot of the healthcare professionals was drafted. For example, personally me, I'm also in connected to military service and to all our physicians, and we understood that the gap of healthcare providers, and right now at Global Care Force is the essential need to be there and to help to Ukrainian community. As Bob already say, the Ukrainian government with different foundations, you maybe heard United 24, what they do, they're rebuilding roads, because roads was completely destroyed. They rebuilding bridges, because bridges was blown up by Russians and also by Ukrainians. For what? for defending protection, for defense of war. We restored these ones. That you see, nice. It was nice, but it also was rebuilt. The refugee centers, what we have been in Cherkasy region, it was rebuilt. Yes, because right now where we are show you where we are working is this clinics is completely what destroyed. But government, what they do, they rebuild roofs, they rebuild windows. Put it furniture, but it's still on the gap of healthcare providers. But also what's most important, and I like it that Jeremy Piquet in the video, that we heal not only bodies, we heal in souls. Because to be present, each of you, it could be medical or non-medical professionals, as a global care force team, what they bring a hope. Because right now, Ukrainian population are exhausted of war. They want over the war, and they could lose their hope. As when our volunteers, as Bob, Leanna, even Jeremy, when was in Ukraine, we bring a hope. When you touch a person and you have personal touch contact, when you to see and you hear them. And Leanna and Bob could confirm it. You bring a joy to people, and also you bring a love. Could you imagine that one volunteer, it's no matter, is a professional, healthcare professional or non-healthcare professional staff, non-medical staff, could bring only to one people hope, joy, and love. And here you could change actually change a life, a given life, a chance to one of the people, one of the person in this village that could be, you could see just, actually he thought, this person, that he is forgotten by a government, that he forgotten by society, community, but we come there and we couldn't keep help to and save all Ukraine at one time, but at one time, you could just save and help to only to one of these grannies, to one of this person. It's terrific what we're doing. And if you don't mind, on the next slide, I just want to show you where we right now were operated. All of our teams, we arrived to Kyiv, then we go directly to Mykolaiv. It's actually right now our teams. The 32nd team on the way to Mykolaiv. It's take to us up to 8 hours. We stayed in Mykolaiv, and every day we start at 7:45, and we go to DC to this green zone, where the Kherson and all of this is here. We operated here. Why is the green zone? The green zone is mentioned that the area was under occupation. And right now is deoccupied. Unfortunately, the pink and red zones is under occupations, where these squares where the Russians are based. But also you could see when we was operated in Kharkiv. You see on the top is a Kharkiv. We operated in the green zones. Unfortunately, due to only safety reasons, we couldn't operate it there because a huge heavy missile attacks. Before we operated in the end with Germany, we saw the Kyiv area that was also during occupation. And right now, we as a global care force, we are focusing on the area where the gap. We coordinated with the local authorities that it would not overlap. But I just want to tell you something more. Unique or beauty of global care force is only organization, unfortunately, at this moment in Ukraine that continues send the foreigners. We just come together with Steve, with Global Care Force. We had volunteers from 7 countries. We are very appreciate most of them, of course, from United States, but we have volunteers from Canada, UK, Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, and we are more than open to invite each of volunteers from each of the countries. But unfortunately, with the exhaustion of the war exhausted also the support to Ukraine. A lot of the international funds was cut down, unfortunately. But with the help of Global Care Force, with the help both of volunteers, of you as a supporters, you continue to support Ukrainian, you continue to support those people who need this essential medical care. And I very appreciate that since last 2 years, like 1 year and a half, we started to bring a trauma care specialist. As Leanna mentioned, we see a terrible scenes, and one of the story that we saw, and Leanna also saw, it was about 5-6 girl that was stopped to talk. You know that why? Because they was see how her mother was raped during a couple of days in front of her. Then the soldier took us a gun, pushed her to head, and she was conscious, and they put her just to the trench where was dead bodies. Luckily, girl was survived, mother was survived, but she stopped to talk. And we heard a lot of their stories. We heard a lot of the stories, even the places where we have been with the journey, that people was forced by Russians about like they was not allowed during 1 month, even more, go out from basement. But basement, you should understand, it's not like nice basement what we have. It's like a basement where you have all of this like water supplies, it's dirty ones, the mouses, and during the 1 month you drink rainwater, you eat mouses, you eat everything what you find there. And it's or in other cases we heard that the people was afraid to let their kids go out, and they hide their kids also in basements, especially it was girls from 12-14 years old, because they could be raped, the men could be tortured. If you will have any of the two, Russian will be seeing that you a Nazi or something like that they call it, and they definitely will be tortured you. And what we saw with Jeremy, a lot of the bullets, shotgun guns, what we have, and actually thanks to our volunteers, both the healthcare professional and non-healthcare professionals, we are changing the situations, and we is an essential need. And as this moment is very need to continue to support Ukraine, because I will be again repeated that a lot of already countries exhaust, and also Ukraine with this continuous war. But we as a Global Care Force, we provide this continuously care. We're not pop-up clinic. And one of the stories I just want to tell you is that Global Care Force that has commitment to what they are doing. We in last December, for some of the reasons, unfortunately, we couldn't gather in the team together. But that we have commitment to this area that will be provided, need to provide help, because you couldn't just give anti-hypertension or anti-diabetes medication and not give it at all. Bob and Leanna could tell you again that it's not literally no access to medication at all. You couldn't get this medication. And Global Care Force was provided by themselves. We organized our Ukrainian team, and we go to support this village because they need also medication, but also beside medication, they need the more mental supporting. Is very crucial that each of you could just save one life and change one word. Word with the changing of this life.
Perfect. Let's talk a little bit about safety. I'll talk to Lev first about it, then get to you guys. But you know, I remember you and I were driving down the highway in Ukraine, and we were talking about military service. You're of the age where you have to check in with the government every 6 months. They could call you up, ask you to fight in the war. I know you have friends who have. 2 days before we were there, one of your staff members there lost a good friend in the war effort. We drove past this massive graveyard that was full of fresh graves of Ukrainian soldiers. Is that's still happening, and people you know and people your age are still getting called up to fight, right?
Yes, unfortunately, we have more and more people as drafted, especially with healthcare professionals. We have a lot of them. My friends, unfortunately, was killed. And when we pass in these villages, we see more. And unfortunately, especially in this area, Snigurivka, when we have a first turn, then we go to this area. It's so dramatic. Then how is at cemetery as growing up, and we have new berries, and we see the soldier because we put a flag on this grave, and unfortunately the situation even goes worse, and we lack of people, and more people are drafting. It's like we don't even have a stop of the draft. Every day we need, unfortunately, more and more human resources.
Yeah. It just shows you how real the threat still is. It may have faded a bit from the headlines here in the country, in the United States, but obviously it's still going on day to day. And Leanna and Bob will talk to you. Leanna, starting with you. Do people think you're crazy for wanting to go over there? And talk about the threat. Have you ever felt unsafe?
I don't know, do you all think I'm crazy? I'm happy going.
We worry.
They worry, yes.
There is no place safe in Ukraine. There is not. It's under attack daily. I mean, that's why I go to volunteer, because there is such a situation there that help is needed. It is alarming to hear air raid alerts going off throughout the night, and you just get back to sleep and there's another one. There's certainly, especially when we're out in the field down in Mykolaiv and in working in the villages, you hear drones, you sometimes hear explosions, you sometimes hear the artillery fire in the distance and things like that. I mean, it is a scary situation. On the other hand, I know that Global Care Force gives a lot of attention to what is going on where. We're all very clear on what we need to do to have, to be ready to leave quickly if something changes suddenly. We stay together as a team. There's guidelines there to make sure that things can be as safe as possible. And yeah, that makes a difference. I mean, it is, I can't say it's not a scary situation, but at the same time, I don't feel afraid to go there, and I feel confident that Global Care Force is watching out for our safety, as well as allowing us to be out in the field with feet on the ground providing services. And I just want to add really quickly too, on the September trip, probably at least 5 times, at least 3 different villages, when we were first pulling in, people would be coming up and specifically saying, "We're so glad to have you back. Welcome back. We're so glad to see you. You're the only people who actually come here in person to provide services. The rest of them may send stuff, they may send good wishes, but you are the people that actually show up to provide services."
Yeah. And Bob, I'm guessing that plays into this notion of safety. There's probably, in your head, you probably say to yourself, I can put myself at this risk considering these people put themselves at risk daily, right?
Oh, absolutely. I guess the attitude that I go to the country with, I do as the Ukrainians would do. If they're concerned, well, then maybe I'll be concerned. But if they're not terribly concerned, I'm not terribly concerned. I always take my cue from the Ukrainians on our team, because it's their job to keep us safe, and they do a very nice job of that. And to tack on with what Leanna said, every single village, especially when you go back, you are recognized, and you are usually personally thanked for returning and not forgetting about us. In fact, there's a theme to that almost every time you go back to a village we've been to previously. But in terms of the safety, I mean, I equate that to, I could cross Spear out here and be hit by a car that runs the light. So life has risks. This is a calculated risk, yes.
Good point. Yeah, Dr. Lev never seemed worried. I'm hearing alarms going off, and I'm hearing apps sounding, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're all right. I know we're almost out of time, and I do want to allow some time for questions, but real quickly to Dr. Lev. So you've been in Kansas City this week, in Phoenix. You're headed to Washington, D.C., trying to raise awareness about the impact of volunteers at Global Care Force and what's going on in Ukraine right now. What would you like people here now to know about your team, what's happening there, and why supporting it is so crucial?
The crucial right now, the message that we need your support. We need people. We need support for getting medication, because every month when we are there for the team, when they're in the field, we purchase medication locally that we want to support local Ukrainian economy. We pay all the taxes there, that patients are familiar with the medication, what they're receiving, and every month we spend up to $10,000 US dollars for medication, and the volunteers that we are there, they see all of the medications they're given to those people who are the needed. And right now we're focusing on those villages who have a gap in the access to medication and to the healthcare provider. Again, thank you very much. Please continue to supporting Global Care Force. Please continue to supporting volunteers. And if you want to change your life through the volunteering, if you want to transform your life, you could be part of this noble mission that you could have a chance to change a life. One of the person that you will be see to join a Global Care Force team as a medical and non-medical staff, because we need people as trauma care, but also we need people to help to set up clinics, because we have 5 days in a row, we have 10 clinics in a row, and every day we have 2 clinics. We see about 100 people. We need somebody who could help us to set up clinics. We need help us people who could do an amazing job as a Jeremy to do a recording, photos, writing stories. Just consider, and I will be very pleased to answer any of your questions if you will have to be joined as a volunteer or support one of these volunteers. Thank you very much.
Very good. Anybody have any questions before we go? They'd love to answer them, I'm sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple questions for Leanna actually. I know you mentioned some of the needs around sexual violence that have happened there. I'm really curious about how that looks different, providing that support that we do here in the U.S., where I think we all have a kind of a framework of sexual violence and gender-based violence being a political issue, but this is a really different type of political issue, with this being a war crime, explicitly political. So I'm just curious about how that support and advocacy looks different from here to there.
Good question. So, because there's not the infrastructure there, there's honestly less of the advocacy piece in connecting people to other resources, which is what we get to do a lot of here. So more of the focus is on the physical, mental, emotional impact of having gone through a situation like that, helping people to deal with that impact as best as possible, so they can get through their day, do what they need to do. Some areas do have access to psychological support, kind of telehealth kinds of services and that is wonderful. But what I find also is there's still a huge need for the support, the validation, the normalization of the impact, and the education piece on how trauma shows up and may show up over time, and that it doesn't just end because a particular incident ended. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, great question. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I have a question for Dr. Lev. The Ukrainian economy, Leanna, when you mentioned the farmlands are mined, and you mentioned support the local economy as far as buying the pharmaceuticals there, how is Ukraine's economy getting by?
Unfortunately, Ukraine, we already spoke this one, that we false 4 times that before war, US dollar was cost 8 hryvnias. Right now it costs 43 hryvnia. Could you imagine, like 4 times as economy is low down? And also, what was the impact of Ukraine? Ukraine is the biggest country within Europe, and we are the biggest as an agricultural provider. And do you know? And actually, it was surprised us that Africa countries was starving. That it was cutting that our grain was taken, and we couldn't give to Africa. Some of the African countries also was dependent on us. We also see this. But due to the fact that unfortunately that Ukraine is the most mined country, because Russians, when they was there, they mined a lot, and also they use this one spread mines that they could spread mines like distantly. Is still mining the territory. We also see a lot of them de-mining. It's called humanitarian de-mining. You remember, Bob and Leanna, when we crossings, it's a lot of doing by Danish government, specifically by others ones. They do humanitarian de-mining. What they do, they want to de-mine field because the people could farm all of the agriculture products, and also quite often we seen when the farmers use their the machines like trucks and combiners, and they blow it up. Thanks God they has only contusion because they're quite heavy machines. They didn't but could maybe kill them, but most of them had the contusions, some of them injured, but it's very, very affect our economy, and is why we dependent, and all of the resources that we are receiving, of course, our government put it to the social needs, because we need also to supporting our schools, kids. Also, we need supporting our pensioners that pays retirement salaries for government centers, and also rebuilding, because a lot of the buildings are hitting, shooting, and also right now the winter. Right now in Ukraine is already, like I say, it's quite cold. It's I don't know. It's not so cold. Here it's not so cold like in Ukraine, but right now we are expecting like next week a snow. We have heavy rains right now. It's very cold, and of course. Our governments will be putting these resources to make sure that rebuild the infrastructure to living people. Unfortunately, the economical situation is not very good, and war exhausted us. And we want to over war as soon as possible.
Anybody else got any questions for these folks up here? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my question is, how do you recruit health professionals, healthcare providers, and what kind of help do you need? Like, I imagine you don't need people that are sports medicine specialists. Is it like a situation where healthcare providers would be like you would need emergency doctors, or is there something that's lacking in terms of healthcare, and how do you reach out to those people?
Actually, we need all of them, and why? Sport medicine, we are more than welcome. We have, firstly, we have triage. On triage is working nurses. It could be student nurses. It could be EMT as firemen. It could be, because on triage you do vitals. It's blood pressure, saturation, blood glucose, urine. It's enough. Then for healthcare providers, we have PA here, physician assistants and physicians, and we welcome to any of the specialties. And also, when we are together in the team, we understood, okay, this is Bob is our amazing, and he's a multi-tool specialist, because you're completely right, because quite often we have on the team and say like is a very for example, we have quite often like gynecologist, it could even sport medicine or surgeon, and say, okay, could I just taken care and examine only adults? I say okay, and we always have Bob. When is Bob? Because key, especially that as people very with the specializations. I don't want to say something bad about surgeons or somebody else one, but say that we not feel comfortable to looking about the kids. But before this one, we know that okay, we have as a Bob. And if he not pediatrician, but he taken care of all of our kids. He not scared about this. And also, as a unique of our team right now, as we have also Ukrainian team. As a Ukrainian team is 10 person. We have a pool. We just invited them when we are going to the field, and all of them is physicians, healthcare providers. And for example, with Leanna, we always will be working as psychiatrists, because in our team we have 3 psychiatrists. Why? Because if we have, she will help to refer patients, if it would be help to prescribe medication besides of trauma care. With Bob, usually it's work with you and Andrei, yes sir? Yes, sure. And he's our already master degree. By the way, Andrei, he's a sport medicine master degree student. Sorry.
He's a physical therapist.
Yeah.
And he's completed his undergrad portion, so he's a physical therapy, technically what we would consider physical therapy assistant, but he's continuing on to continue his education to become a physical therapist. And we make a great team, because there are a lot of musculoskeletal complaints that will come in. And while I'm trying to write a quick note and a prescription for the patient, he can actually give them exercises and instructions that might help them a little better too. So we make a very good team.
Yeah, and also in our team we have, as you work with you, Ilona, Dr. Ilona, we have Andrei here, we have Yuri here, Evgeny. All of them, they working as internal medicine specialist, and they working in admission department is ER, and is why it's a very good combination. It's like beauty of global care force that actually we are global care force. We provided as a full service that we will be meet you in Krakow. That one of our team members will meet you in the baggage claim zone. They go together with you to the hotel. You spend one night in Krakow. Then you take a train to Przemysl, you cross together with us a border, then you go another train to Kyiv. We meet all of you. We, as already was Liana and Bob mentioned, we have very strict rules for each of you. It's no matter physician, medical specialist, or non-medical specialist. You will have your own interpreter that you will be with you 24/7. We stay in one place. We eat together. We do everything together. And as was already mentioned, if we have lack of special volunteers, we as a global care force will be covered all the dispenses, and there will be covered all the direct costs for the Ukrainian physician what we have in our pool. Unfortunately, we couldn't pay here like regular. We didn't pay them regular salary. It's like more than contracted. If we invited them, we also covered expense and pay here salary. It's how was built global care force, and we just make sure that we are welcoming all of the specialists, as Bob already mentioned, that Ukrainian specialists could be added you specialty, and actually we will be find the best way how you could serve.
Any other questions? Hopefully your takeaway from all of this is that there are amazing people both on this side of the world and that side of the world working together to try and help people who are refugees and have been displaced by this awful war that shows no sign of letting up. And the need is still great, and there are many ways for you all to get involved, including going to Ukraine if you're interested. So I'm sure Dr. Lev would be happy to help you all with that.